Play at Novibet.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Irish Angle in association with Novibet. As usual, I've Emma Nagle and Johnny Ward here, and we're going to have a chat about all the things that happened in the last week in racing and give our points of view. Johnny, Emma, welcome to the show.
Afternoon, Vinny.
Now, we've plenty of things to go through, I suppose. Just looking back early part of the week last week and some of the lesser stuff, we had Colin Keane, 5 winners in Dundalk across the 2 days. What was interesting for me was they were for 5 different trainers. We also had 9 meetings cancelled in the UK, all due to weather. And then we had Willie Mullins, treble in Clonmel on Thursday, Gordon Elliott, 4-timer in Navan on Saturday. What was interesting in Navan Saturday as well is the 7 races, 4 for Gordon, 2 for Willie, 1 for Henry. Nobody else got a look in. Jack Kennedy, he's flying as well, gone 24 ahead in the jockeys table ahead of Paul Townend. He has had 11 winners from his last 33 rides, so 1 in every 3 rides is winning. Johnny, Emma, let's have a look at some of it now. Let's go through. I suppose the big one was probably El Fabiolo, Jonbon. 2 horses are going to clash in March, if not before. 2 of them ran at the weekend. Emma, what did you make of it? Any change in your opinion on the 2 horses after what you saw?
No, not particularly. I didn't think either were massively impressive, but they both won fairly well now, in fairness. I was actually in Cork yesterday, saw El Fabiolo. Terrible weather down there, but they got a great crowd now, in fairness. Look, he was good. He put in kind of a few of those jumps you kind of half expect from now. Like he can kind of walk through in the odd time, but I think overall he did it quite well. It was fairly testing ground. I don't think Paul probably exerted him too much, but I don't think it enhanced my opinion or kind of took away from my opinion of him. It was just kind of good to see him get out and kind of show he's fitting well anyway, I suppose. And maybe even similar to Norgamin's performance last year. He kind of had a few sketchy jumps, I suppose, just getting that kind of freshness off them early in the season. And Jonbon, kind of similar. I wasn't massively impressed with Jonbon, but I suppose it's hard to be too harsh on him either. Like he won it quite well in the end, and Jonbon, he kind of looks more like a stare than a proper 2-mile horse, but he's so classy. I suppose he gets away with doing either. Like I'd say if he stepped up to 2.5 miles, it would suit him down to the ground as well. But there was kind of a few stages there when you thought that horse out in front, Alex de Zobo, was nearly out jumping Jonbon, and he kind of wasn't jumping the best for 2 or 3 jumps, which wouldn't be like him. But in fairness, he got on top of it well in the end. I thought it was a big improvement in form from Edwardstone as well. So I still think it's El Fabiolo's champion chase to lose, but there's a small chance of them clashing in the Clarence house now, I think. I don't think Henderson will be too keen on it. He might keep him for another day, but it would be good to see El Fabiolo go over to England and for the Clarence house. If Jonbon will show up, I would be surprised, but it would be a nice kind of early season clash, I suppose.
Yeah, just looking at breaking it down a little bit closer. Johnny, you can tell me what you think of this. Jonbon wins last month the Shlure Chase by 9.5 lengths from Edwardstone. He wins at the weekend by 2 3/4 lengths from Edwardstone. So obviously Edwardstone is closing up on him. That's the first thing. Then we look at El Fabiolo. Last season in the Irish Arkle at Leopardstown, he beats Fildor 37 lengths. He goes the other day, he beats Fildor 4 3/4 lengths. Now, admittedly, there was an Fildor was 8 pounds better off the other day than he had been the previous day. But neither of them are massively impressive, are they? They don't look like they're absolute stone-cold certainties to finish first and second in a champion chase, to me anyway, on the basis of what we saw at the weekend. What do you think, Johnny?
I'd still find it hard to see anything else getting involved, really. I think for a start, at this stage now, you can say Willie Mullins, a lot of the horses making their seasonal debuts aren't really performing as well as they could. Western Diego, as much as he was sort of uneasy to back yesterday, he still went off 4 to 6, ran really, really poorly. Zenta, I thought, was disappointing in a race that sort of slightly fell apart. She was well beaten favourite as well. And you look at, obviously, there was chat about some of his other sort of top horses coming back and getting beaten. And, you know, I don't know what we expect from El Fabiolo at this stage of the season. I think he did what he was entitled to. I didn't expect Jonbon to bolt up on Saturday, to be honest, on that ground. It was proper testing. You mentioned, Vinny, all the meetings have been called off. And there was a concern about Sandown on the Saturday that if it got particularly bad, they might be in trouble. So I don't think he's really as effective on proper deep ground, or maybe like a lot of walk in the park horses. And I thought his attitude was good. I wouldn't be disappointed in Jonbon. El Fabiolo, for me, he did what he was entitled to. There is a little bit of a question mark with some of Willie's horses just making their comeback runs at this stage, and I give him a bit of a pass. It would be great if we saw them clash for Cheltenham, because I have to say I don't get much of a kick out of the Hilly Way yesterday at all. Like, it's a race I could really take or leave. You have a 1-6 favourite, whatever it is, doing the job. But when you have horses that are so dominant in the division, as much as we like to see superstars, I don't think it's a great spectacle. And if you want to get involved in backing these horses, Constitution Hill would say if he had a run, back in Constitution Hill, Jonbon and Fabioli, you're struggling to get even money on your treble. So you're kind of just watching them. But a horse is winning by 10 or 12 lengths. It's great. I'm not sure it's a great spectacle, though. I'm not sure it really lingers in your memory for too long. And I'm sure Willie will have his horses right coming towards the end of the season. But he has had an awful lot of horses, for me, disappointing at odds on, particularly those making their seasonal returns of late. There might be something in it. There might be nothing in it.
Yeah, well, one thing you touched on there is the ground. We've looking back, I wrote a blog there this morning about the fact that as far as you can go in ground, you can go all the way from firm all the way through to heavy, but you can't get anything beyond heavy. So we had 3 meetings on Saturday: Aintree, Chepstow, Navan, all described as heavy ground. But there's no doubt there was a huge difference between the heavy ground at Navan, particularly, and the heavy ground at Aintree, where at Navan, most of the horses seemed to handle it quite well. There were very few pullers up in comparison to Aintree, where 36% of the horses that ran had to be pulled up. What did you make of it, Emma? Is there a case for saying here, first off, we know that in Ireland particularly, they don't use going sticks. Goran Park, I think, is the only one that uses a going stick to give you some sort of a reading besides a metric reading, rather than just calling it a name like heavy. And then the fact that we're using stick, just someone going out poking a stick in the ground and telling us what they think it is. And as I say, you wouldn't mind so much if the same person did that at every individual racetrack, so you'd have a metric to be able to work from. But the fact that there's different people doing it at all the different tracks, and then you must have different soil types, you must have all sorts of different things going on here. So how do you equate it? Because we're going to look back now, come March or come whenever, we're going to look back at this weekend and say, oh, he won on heavy ground, he must love heavy ground or whatever, but yet he mightn't handle the Aintree version of it or the Chepstow version, but he did handle the Navan version and so on. What do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely incredibly subjective, and I think your blog hit a lot of very valid points. Like, in this day and age of technology, it seems a bit mental that a sport that kind of relies so heavily on betting is giving punters this very subjective group view on ground, which is basically just off sticking a stick into the ground, and different clerks at every course would have different opinions on what's soft, what's heavy, what's good, what's firm. And there's definitely a point to be made that I think a lot of tracks, when they get heavy, would be an awful lot different. I think heavy ground in the likes of Goran or Limerick would be a lot different to the heavy ground and maybe a Leopardstown. So it's kind of something, maybe seasoned punters might realise, you're backing a horse in Limerick and it's heavy ground. They have to really like heavy ground, whereas Leopardstown, they might get away with it. But I think, for the more casual punters, they might know the tracks inside out and stuff like that. So there's definitely a case to be made that, racing needs to kind of move ahead with the times a bit and bring in some more sophisticated technology to kind of judge the ground. And I think you made a point in the blog about runners finishing, but I definitely think whatever it is between the riders in Ireland and England, I think Irish riders just seem to ride a bit better on heavy ground. They take their time. I thought in some of the English races there's a lot of people giving out online about racing even beyond, but I mean if you can't race on heavy ground, it's kind of a bleak enough future for racing, I would think. I just think Irish jockeys seem to take their time on the heavier ground, whereas in a few of the races in England on Saturday, they kind of seem to go off at a gallop. You might go on just normal soft ground and they just weren't getting home. But definitely, I think it's very, very tough for punters to judge it. Like you were saying, in Navan, it didn't seem to be half as bad as it was over in the UK in some tracks. So definitely some more sophisticated metrics should be brought in, because it's very, very hard to back a horse on ground that you're not totally certain of, because it's totally subjective opinions between different clerks of the course.
Just a few things on that, Vinny, as well. If you're new into racing and it's heavy ground at say Kelso in December, which it was yesterday, albeit it was called off, and then you've heavy ground at say Ballinrobe in July, this is completely different ground, and it's the exact same 5-letter description, right? And that's a basic example. But I think if when I sort of started cycling a bit during lockdown, I got into Strava, and it's all database, right? And I still can't figure out why it's not used more in terms of racing, because it tells you exact sectionals in racing. But really, with the data available on a given day, you should be able to deduce from that what the ground was like after 7 or 8 races. If not for the day itself, going forward, they should be able to give you a pretty exact from 0 to 10, if you want to use that sort of as a guide, how bad the ground was on the day. Because I agree with you today, like maybe in Navan, I think the first 2 races had about 50 runners, and they're trying to get handicap marks, most of them, so they do want to finish. That's the whole point of running the maiden hurdle if you're not going to win it really at this stage. So it's not exactly comparing like with like, but the ground descriptions in Ireland, like we've had proper testing ground in Ireland, but it's been different in England, where they seem to have racing meetings called off now every day of the week. As you mentioned, 2 more inspections tomorrow. But I do think you touched on something there. It's for a sport that involves so much in terms of money and betting, and which, the whole future of it depends on betting and being able to trust what you're doing in terms of it. I do think the ground descriptions at this stage are a little bit of an anachronism.
Yeah, there's so much in it. I suppose the other thing that often gets my goat up a little bit is when you've got a mixed card and you've got the racing on the exact same ground, and yet we call it whatever, good to yielding in places for the jumpers, and then we have it soft to heavy in places for the flat horses on the very same piece of turf. It seems incredible to me, but anyway, the ground is what the ground is. It shouldn't be dependent on which horse is running on it, what you describe it as, I would have thought. Anyway, just on the ground issue again, we had Sandown, the rescheduled Fighting Fifth, Constitution Hill and Shishkin. That was a bit of a mess all week, was it, Emma?
Yeah, it was very disappointing, to be honest. Just like, look, I suppose it's kind of hard to argue with Nicky Henderson, look, he's a master trainer and that, but just when the field was so weak, you think, like, Constitution Hill is a horse now who would be probably running 3 times this year. I mean, we always kind of seem to make the point, like, as jumps fans, that we see these horses coming back year after year, but we've probably seen Paddington more during the summer than we'll see Constitution Hill over the next 2 or 3 years. So it's kind of disappointing for fans, to be honest. And it kind of doesn't put me off the horse, but I find it hard to get behind him as kind of this superstar champion hurdler, just because I think my favourite ever champion hurdler was Hurricane Fly. Hurricane Fly, like, some of his best battles would have been in Leopardstown, and it wasn't all about Cheltenham for him, and he won, was it 22 grade ones? I mean, will Constitution Hill even won 22 times in his whole career? It's kind of a question at this stage. It was disappointing, and what I kind of find hard to understand is Jonbon, he seems to treat completely differently then, because he never seems to shy away from running Jonbon. I think Jonbon probably runs as much as any grade 1 horse. What makes Constitution Hill a lot more fragile to him, I'm not really sure. But yeah, it was just disappointing for the fans. And I think the grade 1 action in Sandown overall was pretty weak. I suppose Constitution Hill would have added a lot today. So it was just disappointing as a fan. And hopefully we'll see him soon anyway. But yeah, he's kind of a horse he always has that kind of cloud over for me anyway, because we don't really see him too often.
Yeah, and remember this time last year he was pulling him out and I actually defended him this time last year because I thought the ground, it just shows how mad the weather is now. Like when he was making a seasonal return last year, the ground was too quick. And this time I was very surprised. I mean, running a horse back on heavy ground in winter, who's basically a horse that handles heavy ground well. I mean, where is he going to run at this stage?
Yeah, well, the other thing
he won a heavy ground Talworth as well, like, so it's not as if he doesn't handle the ground.
Yeah. Well, the other thing on that is he has to keep running Jonbon because he had to get back his purchase price of 570k for his owner. So he finally made that the other day, got 90 grand. He's 30 in profit now, JP. So no wonder there was celebrations. He brought all the grandkids and everything over for that one. But the other thing here is just from a media point of view, I suppose, look, we're involved in the media as well. There's an insatiable appetite for information, constantly looking for more. But Nicky Henderson, you'd be better off saying nothing, would be a lot of the time here. That we're almost getting hourly updates from him during the week about, I'm thinking I'm going to run, I'm not going to run, I might not run, I might run both, I might run one. Like, we'd be better off just not knowing. Let the man enter the horses, let the man run the horses if they run. I just find it's increasingly frustrating as the seasons go by. Now I know he has ties up with bookmakers and that, and they're looking for their pound of flesh from him every time, looking for another, what's happening, Nicky, what are you doing here? But like, wouldn't it be better off if he said nothing at this stage?
Definitely, like, because there's plenty of trainers who campaign horses sparingly, like Album Photo. Willie didn't win a whole pile, and people don't really seem to mind. It's just this promise that he's always going to show up, and he never does. And promise that he'll go chasing, and he won't go chasing. I mean, I don't think anyone would have expected him to go chasing, but then everyone was upset because he didn't, because they were talking about it. It's just, I think it's kind of winding people up a small bit, really, more than anything else.
Yeah, well, let's have a look at another thing then from last week. An interesting thing is Hong Kong. They had their big day early yesterday morning, all their Hong Kong Cup and Hong Kong Mile and everything. And Aidan O'Brien sent 4 over. A couple of them didn't run too well. Aesop's Fable finished last at 10. Cairo 10-14. Warm Heart ran well in their Hong Kong Vase, finished 3rd. And Luxembourg ran a cracker, only beaten a short head by Romantic Warrior. What's interesting here is Luxembourg picks up €940,000 for finishing 2nd, which is some money. The race was worth €4.28 million. And Romantic Warrior, the winner, which is Irish bred, sourced by Mick Kennan originally for smallish money. I think it only cost 200,000 or 300,000 when you consider that the horse has now won 14 million in career earnings. And the other one, Golden 60, which was most impressive winning, that's won nearly €19 million. You'd wonder why Aidan O'Brien just doesn't move the whole operation over there at this stage. What do you think, Johnny?
Yeah, no, I stand corrected, but I think the Hong Kong prize money is kind of generated by how big the betting is. Whereas, I mean, you look at the John Ram Live Golf stuff, where the Arab money is basically oil money that they're throwing at purses. So, in fairness, I haven't been over there. I don't know if you guys have, but like, they're absolutely fanatical about racing over there. Like, it's something that we could only dream of. I'd love to go to like a Japan Cup or Hong Kong to see it, because it's a completely different, like, it's like, remember when Deep Impact was running in the Arc? I certainly remember that, but like the Far East, their attitude to racing is incredible. Now, I know there are a lot of complexities in sending horses over there, and, you know, Luxembourg's had a long season and all that, but it is incredible prize money. Like the prize money in Ireland, Vinny, even though the narrative says we've great prize money, we actually really don't in relative terms, particularly at the lowest level. Whereas if you're involved in a horse in Ireland, you'll probably lose about 80% of your money as a general rule. And even at the top level, when you see races like this, our prize money is only run of the mill.
Yeah, I'm beginning to think that too. Like, I know we hear this all the time about the UK and the small prize money at the gaff tracks around the UK, this midweek stuff and everything else. But the weekend stuff, like Jonbon picked up nearly 100 grand there at the weekend for winning a smallish field race and everything else. Like, I find it astonishing that more of the Irish aren't targeting those sort of races. And you can see with Aidan O'Brien, he ran 4 over there in Hong Kong, but wouldn't you think if he put the best of his away during the summer, keeping them for that, he'd pick up some prize money over there in those 4 big races rather than just running the one horse in each? He could have had 2 or 3 in each of them.
Just on the prize money issue there, I bumped into primarily a jumps trainer actually last week, and he was saying how he had to put up his fees up to 50 or 52 quid a month, and he was just explaining that, and you'll have heard this yourself, but just the cost of the costs have gone up so much that he is just really, really scraping by at that. And, you know, he's making the point that
you're talking about there.
What's that?
52 quid a day, is it?
52 a day. Sorry, 50 or 52 a day. He was saying that he was sort of, he took a view that he'd sort of take on the big yards and maiden hurdles and kind of run his horses like as ethically as possible and all of that stuff. But that it just became next to impossible. And then you're talking about like the results of Saturday at Navan, like the particularly the jumps yards at the moment at Dundalk. At least on the flat you've Dundalk, and you've kind of regular stuff for the low grades horses. To get involved to get involved in a jumps horse now in Ireland, trying to take on the big yards, and then the trainer himself or herself making really no money from it. I'm not sure where it's going. Like, it's a very, very difficult game to get involved in, and prize money isn't going to get you very far.
Yeah, and then we're talking about the media rights issue at the moment with bans on gambling advertising and everything else, and they're talking about pulling out racing TV and at the races or Sky Sports Racing or whatever. If that did come about, I don't think it will personally, but if it did happen to come about, the whole funding model is wrecked, isn't it? Because there's a large amount of it coming there. We also have the government funding in Ireland as well, but even in the UK, they're depending on those media rights deals. So it's hard to know where it would end up, I suppose. But when you start to see the opportunities that are available abroad, I know there's a colleague of mine is talking about sending horses to France now because of the prize money. Horses, they syndicate them in the UK, and they're talking about sending them to France because the prize money is so good there. I think there might be an opportunity that a horse rated around 70 can more than pay their way in France. What do you think, Emma? Is there an opportunity we're supposed to be world leaders in this in Ireland, and we seem to be, so why are we not taking advantage of the prize money on offer in other jurisdictions?
Yeah, I've heard there's been a few kind of trainers, like maybe not so much for Ireland, but from England who have gone over, maybe set up satellite yards in France. Like the prize money there seems to be on a totally different level, just in the day-to-day stuff, I suppose. Like I don't think our prize money isn't terrible, but like you mentioned, like for maybe the Saturday races, like compared to the UK, it's you're winning a big handicap in a saddle. You're not really making big money off it. Like, and it's very hard. Like Johnny kind of mentioned about the small trainer opening their fees. It's very, very hard. I think very, very few trainers now will actually be making money off training horses. Like they'd be, apart from maybe the top big yard, however many big yards in the country, like I think most will just be selling horses and making the money that way. I've spoken to a few trainers who said like it's basically impossible to make training horses actually pay money. You have to sell a horse. You have to sell a couple of horses every year to keep the bills being paid. And like you were mentioning costs rising, but I was talking to someone about prize money recently, and I can't remember the name of the race, but like I think if you go back maybe 20 years ago, the prize money for a lot of races would actually have been higher than it is at the moment, which seems incredible considering inflation and all of that. So I think, we probably pat ourselves in the back a little bit too much, given maybe the day-to-day, like maiden hurdles and stuff, we will get more than England. But if you're winning the big handicaps in England, like you highlighted with Slate Lane in your blog a few weeks ago, it's a lot more lucrative, and that's probably more achievable for the small trainers, I suppose, when you probably can achieve to win a big Saturday handicap. But the majority of our prize money, like you had spoken about before, is being mopped up by the big yards, which really doesn't help a whole pile of people, I suppose.
We flag off Britain as well, Vinny, but like if the British government, which has enough problems at the moment, the British government just decided to pay half of the prize money for British racing overnight, like what happens in Ireland, it'd be a pretty changed landscape. And the situation now, Emma's from a jumps yard, like the situation for her dad or her yard to come on a horse that isn't secured for loads of money in the point-to-point sphere. Like, so all like that's the way it is basically. The big owners are buying horses out of point-to-points, and that leaves this sort of small pool of horses that you might come upon a nice horse from time to time, but it's very, very hard. And then with inflation and the inability to really win good races with jumpers because of how difficult it is versus the bigger yards, like it is really becoming very, very tough. And I'm not giving out about the big yards at all, because it just happen to be extremely good. But it's a vicious circle, because if you want to compete with them, you have to invest. You have to probably invest more in your, in the yard, in your gallops, and all of that. But you can't do that when you're not actually making any money from racing in the first place.
Yeah, the old catch-22 situation, isn't it? Yeah, but look, last thing on it for me anyway is we talk about prize money and all the rest of it, and I think it has an impact at a low level. But at the high level, it's irrelevant, isn't it? Like these owners you take your JP McManus spending 570,000 sterling on Jonbon. He didn't ever expect to get that back in prize money, I don't think. He didn't care whether he did or not. What difference is it going to make to him? Like people are saying it's irrelevant there. When I put a tweet up about it a couple of weeks ago saying he needed to earn another 63 grand to get back to level on that alone, never mind all his training fees and all the other associated costs with having the horse for the last 3 years. So like the prize money, realistically, to the likes of him is totally irrelevant. The same with your Rich Richies and all the rest of them. So why are we worrying about increasing the prize money in those races? Will we not be better off doing something different with the prize money, perhaps longer term? That's my take on it anyway. All right, one other thing to look at, talking about the big money in racing, is Coolmore. There was a very interesting article in the Irish Times on Saturday. Johnny, you pointed that out to me, or pointed me in the direction of it. Very interesting here about the amount of land they're buying around Tipperary and the money they're spending on it. What do you think of that?
I found this fascinating and very well researched article. I actually spoke to a fellow from Tipperary since, just to kind of put it to him, and he replied to the effect that the article was pretty much spot on. I think Ron McGreevy wrote it. I suppose what piqued my interest was we have the guy from we have John Magner, who thought he was getting local land, and there was sort of a gentleman's agreement, or there was a perceived gentleman's agreement, and now there's a kind of a debate in court over it. And the guy whose name escapes me, who's actually bidding against John Magner for the land. The land's worth between 15 and 20 million, I think. But the guy who's bidding against him is also in racing and has a stud. And if you read the story, you'll find out what kind of is the background to it. But the story then went on that just the amount of land that Coolmore has bought in Tipperary is absolutely staggering. Like, I think somebody mentioned 4 or 5 times the Phoenix Park or something, and a percentage of the size of County Louth and all of this. But what came through in the article, Vinny, was, and I've seen down the years how Coolmore tries to control the media and tries to control the narrative going out, because it doesn't really want bad publicity, and that's fair enough. But what interested me was that there's a lot of I just, if not animosity, there's a lot of people very pissed off with what's happening on the ground there, and that, like, farmers can't compete in terms of buying land, and I suppose it's a survival of the fittest. But Coolmore is apparently paying so much above the odds for land down there that it's making it a very lopsided kind of market. And I just felt that, and Coolmore is a great employer in Tipperary and does so much for racing and all of that, and has changed the face of Irish racing forever. But it just, I have to marry the fact that, like, if you're cheering home a horse in Limerick Junction that's owned by Coolmore, there are a lot of people there who basically will not want Coolmore to be winning, judging on this article, put it that way.
Yeah. Like, I'm not sure where I sit on this. The bottom line is, look, it's free market forces. If you want to buy a piece of land and you want to pay more than the fella next to you, you should be allowed to do that. And, the highest bidder gets it. It's the same with most things in life, isn't it? But as you say, they seem to be mopping up land and paying hugely over the odds of what a farmer can pay for it as tillage land or whatever, because they're using it for feed for horses or whatever. I don't think they're actually putting horses on most of this land by the sound of it. They're talking about them only coming in 2 days a year, one day to sow the grass and another day to harvest it. What do you think, Emma? Is it a problem, or is it an issue, or do we really care?
I suppose, like, it's I read the article as well. Johnny sent it on to me. It's tough for the local farmers, I suppose, but there's probably 2 sides to it. Like, I suppose Coolmore provide a lot for the local area. I don't really have massively strong opinions on it, to be honest. It's I suppose multi-million euro plots of land isn't really high up in my worries at the moment. But you can see why people would be up in uproar of it, I suppose. There's probably a fairly split opinion on it, really, given they do employ a lot of employment in the area, but it's also obviously going to be very, very hard for any kind of local farmers to compete with that kind of money. So, yeah, it's kind of a tough one to sum up, I suppose.
In fairness, I have the article here, Vinny, as well. In fairness to Coolmore, there's kind of references here to the amount of the percentage of the land that sort of goes towards, like, the environment and all of that. And, like, in fairness, I don't think Coolmore comes out that badly from it in some respects of the article. It's really well worth reading. Saturday's Irish Times. But what piqued my interest was, if you look at the weather in Ireland in 2023, how anyone would be paying loads of money for agricultural land when, like, you have a tornado in Leitrim now on a Sunday. Like, the weather has gone so mad. Tillage has been badly hit. The potato crops have been decimated. You can't trust the weather anymore in Ireland. So if you're going out paying all this money for agricultural land, you really, really want to invest in something else. That'll be my very, very, very what it's worth opinion.
And if potato crops are failing, we're all in trouble. We know that from history, don't we? Yeah. Yeah. The other thing is, look, I live in the Curragh. Around us, everything is a stud farm. Every place you go is a stud farm. It's either the Aga Khan has all the ones, particularly around where I am, with a Shishun stud where he keeps mares. Not that many actually in it at the minute, but you've stud farms all over the place. All the Arabs have them. There's Japanese people have a big stud farm down the road from us as well here that used to be owned by the Mulherns. But all around, it's stud farms. It's been that for hundreds of years. There's never any issue around it, so I don't see why it's an issue if there's stud farms in Tipperary either, personally. But look, anyway. We'll move on to the last thing of the week, which is a horse to follow. Emma, you must have seen plenty down in Cork, at least, when you were there yesterday.
I did. I saw a few in Cork, but I think there was maybe a few in Navan. I was kind of split between it. Look, I really like Slade Steele in the Grade 2 Navan, so I thought he was very impressive. But I'll probably go with Indiana Dream, who won the Beginner's Chase. It's a horse I didn't know a whole pile about him, to be honest, before he ran here. He'd only won, I think he'd won a maiden hurdle in Fairy House last New Year's Day. But I just thought he was fierce, impressive. Like, we were talking about how heavy the ground is, and this horse just seemed to be hard on the bridle coming down to the last fence. And, like, it wasn't a bad race at all. Like, I think the first 3 home in that race were pretty decent horses, and he made them look very, very ordinary. He's got very little done. He's a big, massive horse owned by JP. I'd be surprised. Like, to be fair, the anti-post market has gone a bit mental. Like, I think they cut him to 10-1 for the Turners or something after winning a beginner's shade, which is absolutely insane. Like, I wouldn't be backing him at that price, but I'd be surprised if he wasn't a proper grade 1 horse, I'd say, on that performance anyway.
Very good. Johnny, have you one for us?
Yeah, well, Vinny alludes to the anti-post sort of nonsense. It's something I actually think is quite sad, just how irrelevant it has become and how racing betting itself is becoming less and less relevant. But anti-post is even an extreme version of that. I was going to give the same as Emma, but I'll go with one of the ones she mentioned there. I did kind of fancy Slade Steel to run well. I was put off by the horse's odds on Friday to an extent. I just thought the race was really competitive and was running on heavy ground over 2.5 by telescope. And as much as I didn't think it would be an issue, he was put in favourite. Didn't go off favourite. Stellar Story was well backed and well fancied. And I thought he knuckled down brilliantly from the last. I'm not exactly sure where this horse is going to go. He could be another, I think, Untubber for the same connections is quite an interesting type for over a similar trip. Will definitely want at least 2.5. But I foresee that both Slade Steel and Untubber will run at Cheltenham. I really like Slade Steel going forward. For a horse of inexperience, he did loads right and will have no issue as well with nicer ground.
Great stuff. All right, I'll give you as a total mad one. I think it'll win at Christmas, probably Limerick, somewhere over the Christmas period anyway. Horse called One Big Bang, trained by Paul Tobin. There was a few quid for this in a minor 2.5 mile handicap hurdle, last race in Cork on Sunday. And there was a few quid for it. So I said, okay, I'll have a look at this and watch it, because the last time there was a few quid for one of Paul Tobin's, it was very interesting. It was in Tremor back in, I think, when was it, August last year, where there were 4 linked horses all backed in a Cumes. And his one was ridden by Danny Mullins. There was a Mullins link to them all. One was trained by Emma, one was trained by Willie or whatever, and all the rest of it. So anyway, there was money for 4 of them, and this one was ridden by Danny back from 80s into evens and ended up getting beaten. It was the only one that got beat on the day, but it was interesting that was a Paul Tobin horse. Then I see money for a Paul Tobin one yesterday, so I said I'll watch that. And One Big Bang, this probably isn't a bad horse now, in fairness, only rated 99, finished 4th in the race, but showed up really well. I think it just needed a run. Hadn't run since December. It was its first handicap hurdle, or hadn't run since March, sorry. First handicap hurdle, and it's a point-to-point winner. It might have won 2 point-to-points. It got carried out one day when it was looking like it would win another point-to-point. So I'd watch out for that over Christmas. Should be fitter for the run. Anyway, thanks for all your input today, guys. And hopefully everyone watching it enjoyed the show. And make sure to subscribe to our channel. And keep an eye on us for next week when we'll be back again. There's more shows. Emma will be here on Friday with a tipping show for the weekend, and we'll have more of them over the Christmas and everything. So hopefully we'll get you a few winners. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.